I started building in Arizona in 1956, designing houses as well. I was a mountain climber and a rock climber, and so I climbed all the boulders and rock places and so forth. Began to realize that there was a lot that you could do with these boulder piles, immense boulder piles. And I also realized that if you were going to buy a lot on the side of a mountain and move all the boulders off of it so that you could put a house on it, it'd cost a fortune to do it, and also take a lot of time. So I decided that there ought to be a way to take a boulder-strewn lot and design a house or a building so that it fit in among the boulders and not move the boulders. Don't try to remove them, leave them as they are. Leave everything just as God left it. In 1956, I began that in the Scottsdale area. In 1957, I was up in the area of Carefree, where Carefree is now. And I knew the two guys very well that owned the land there, Tom Darlington and K.T. Palmer. And they asked me if I would come up. They knew that I was a mountain climber and a rock climber. They asked me if I'd come up and look the land over and see what I thought could be done with laying out the roads to fit the contours and so forth. KT and Tom, the two guys that owned the Carefree area, the original 1,400 acres, they had been very discouraged with what Scottsdale had tried to do, Scottsdale in the old days, and they just couldn't get the town fathers down there to do anything that they felt was sensible. They didn't feel that the property owners were being protected properly and so forth, so they decided they were going to build a town of their own. And they felt that I was just the right guy with my background and all to come up there and lay the roads out and set this thing up so that we could start from there. That town is today known as Carefree, Arizona. Carefree, which today is quite a substantial town. When we started laying out Carefree, when I began walking the roads in and so forth, and why Tom and KT were casting about for a name for the place, and they realized that the file that they had in their file drawers that had to do with the purchase of this land was called the Carefree Corporation. That was just what the organization had been called among themselves. So gradually that just kind of took over, and then the name of the file in their office being Carefree, one day after another they kept calling this Carefree and Carefree. Well, let's go to Carefree and let's bring the Carefree file and so forth. So that's the way it started. And in many ways, why we had a lot of laughs out of it, because many times we'd say, there's nothing carefree about Carefree. For us, the ones who were trying to build it and trying to make it work, and all these boulder piles and rattlesnakes crawling along as the bulldozers shook them out of the ground. Well, the primary challenge in Carefree had to do with the terrain. The terrain was very precipitous, immense boulder piles. There were boulder piles there where one single boulder would be 35, 40 feet in diameter. And I knew that those weren't going anyplace, and I thought if I had to move these, or if I had to break these down and haul them away, it was going to cost an absolute fortune for any potential buyer. And still, on the other hand, the boulder piles were perhaps the most interesting and beautiful aspect of Carefree. So I put myself to work at my drawing board trying to figure out how I could accommodate these boulders. I wanted these boulders to be part of the houses, an integral part of it, so that when you drove up to the building site, that here's these immense boulders. And on the other hand, I didn't want to have to move them because it was going to cost too much money. So I finally thought, I'm just going to build these things right into the house, and I'm going to make some of these boulders the walls, the actual walls of the house. I finally got to a point where I was the only person that was building houses of that kind, boulder piles and glass and walls and all of this kind of stuff right into right into the side of the mountain. I didn't have any competition because at the beginning nobody else could do it. The people that enjoyed having that, having the big boulders in the houses, they were absolutely totally sold. You couldn't drive them away from their houses. They just loved them. Over time, I began to be kind of known as the Boulder Man. I did 356 homes scattered all over. Wherever there were mountains, why, I had some of my homes. I did all the building. I built most of my houses myself because I couldn't find building contractors to do it. My work became so well known that Taliesin, Frank Lloyd Wright's school, wanted me to come out there and teach. I taught at Taliesin for 14 years. Carefree was doing some struggling in about 1970 financially, and Carefree finally began to suggest that they pay me in property, and that's how I ended up with this one piece of property in Boulders Country Club. It had 2 golf courses in it, and it had many, many homes in it. They have a workout club and so forth that's very well known. Yeah, Lot 9 in the Boulders was one of the 7 or 8 lots that I received in lieu of payment. It's the only one I have now. It's the only one I still have. I haven't through all these years. I've kept that lot. It has about 19,000 square feet. Homes on 3 sides of it, all quite a distance away, and you get the best aspects of every one of them, and a very large boulder, a single boulder, on the north side of this property. And all of the houses have been arranged so that they can look into this immense boulder. And Lot 9 will be in that same category at all. So an architect who knows what he's doing can go in there with a fait accompli. He has all the necessary buildings. The buildings that are going to be there in the future are there today. So when he designs his new home for Lot 9, he already knows exactly what the difficulties are. Lot number 9 is an excellent lot, maybe the perfect lot. The entire view to the west shows Black Mountain, clear to the top of Black Mountain, and both to the left end and the right end. I've owned lot number 9 for 50 years, since 1970. And I'm certain that the person that buys that lot is going to see all the pluses that I see in it when they build their home.